Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Links with Friends. Today is May 27th, and we're doing government and security stories for the start of your week.
Wendell's still out.
He'll be back next week.
He's alive, though.
He is.
We've got proof of life. He should be back. Just wait.
He wanted to hop right off a plane and do the news tomorrow, and we were like, no, you could just rest.
Plus, it's a holiday weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I don't know if I have plans, but that wasn't my plan.
Yeah, my plan was just to, simmer in my own juices for the long weekend.
Goblin mode. That's how I like to memorialize the troops.
Yeah, it's what they would have wanted.
Yeah, I think so. But I hope that they would not have wanted this because, there's a lot of propaganda in our armed forces stuff. I don't want to crap on them this time. But they say that they fight for our freedoms. And this doesn't feel like freedom to me. Does it feel like freedom to you?
U.S. spy agencies are getting a one-stop shop to buy your most sensitive personal data. What a crass way of putting it, and yet very accurate.
So all those data sets, much like DOGE has wanted to put everything together, well, this is looking to do the same thing, but not just for, the purpose of consolidating everything, but literally a shop. Shop is the operative word there. Because they're talking about warrant bypassing purchase of personal information by government agencies, and they're looking to make a nice little marketplace to make that easy. And here's the best part. You're going to love this. They're going to turn AI loose on it to consolidate it and make sure and go out and you can run a query with AI to go and fetch whatever you need from all of these.
They'll protect all this data, right?
It's already not protected.
It'll
it's
be
already
so protected.
Piecemeal and stolen and put together, and they're just looking to take all the little pieces, make a nice big lump.
A nice big payday for some hacker.
So, yeah, that's coming. I like that they're making them buy it, though. We could give this to you. Nah, you got to buy it. It's the government.
Funded by the U.S. citizen, right. And then made there's nothing good about this if you're an average citizen.
And there's nothing about this if you are a pod person, because everything is definitely going to get a lot more expensive if this happens.
Trump threatens Apple with a 25% tariff if it doesn't build iPhones in America.
So Trump, this is like many of the things about Trump. This is just some offhand comment he made during a speech. He said he ran into Tim Cook when they were in the Middle East.
As you do.
And he was like, listen, Tim, I don't like that you're in India. I don't want you in India. You're going to have to come back to the U.S. There's been a lot of discussion about how realistic that is. Most people think that it is not realistic. So is it cheaper to do it here than 25%? I don't even know if that's true. I think it still might be cheaper to do it in India.
Probably. Although
that number, as we've learned, could be very fluid.
Yeah. By the time you see this, once again, it could be different.
And that information that you had that you hoped was secret, I mean, not even really secret, just somewhat
protected.
Private. Yeah. Well, no, you're not allowed to have any secrets. The age of privacy is dead unless you have powerful friends.
Trump admin tells Supreme Court DOGE needs to do its work in secret. Like some sort of secret police, maybe.
Now, that wasn't their exact argument. It kind of is, but that they're, paraphrasing here. They're sensationalizing the headline. The actual argument was DOGE is not a government agency per se. DOGE is an advisor to the president. So the presidential secrets should apply because they themselves are not an agency. They operate through him. The judge so far does not seem to be buying that. The judge is claiming that...
If anything, they should have less permissions.
The judge is basically making a statement saying, well, based on what you're telling us that DOGE is doing, I don't think Donald J. Trump can do those things. I don't think he's capable of that. So, probably true. I would love to see Trump interfacing with a large language model, wouldn't you?
You think he has at any capacity? Do you think he understands any of that at all?
For sure. And I guarantee you, it was all about himself. He was just asking it about himself. I'd still love to read it, though.
Tell me how good I am. Like mirror, mirror on the wall, like the stepmom.
And if you recall, Trump has a very contentious relationship with the FBI. And one of the things he doesn't like about the FBI, which is interesting considering what we just talked about, is their secrecy. and their lack of oversight and their ability to do things outside of regular channels, which is a terrible thing. We should not have that. That should not be a part of any law enforcement agency. But he put his guy in charge of the FBI, and now
FBI Director Kash Patel abruptly closes internal Watchdog office overseeing surveillance compliance.
Trump has actually come out and named FISA and been against it and said warrantless surveillance of him, again, was not okay and something needed to be done about it. Well, that's presumably not happening anymore because this guy's in charge. But he is now defending FISA and saying that, no, we must not have any sort of oversight of this power.
Who's in his ear last to tell him that?
This guy.
He changes just like the wind.
And Ron Wyden is, he's kind of on the people's side sometimes, but I don't trust him.
I don't trust any of them.
Of course not. I mean, maybe Massey a little bit. But Wyden does have a point here. However, he has a very specific point that doesn't affect me, and I got a question, why are we putting that qualifier in there? Why limit it, bro?
Phone companies failed to warn senators about surveillance, Wyden says.
So if you don't know, God help you if you don't know this by now.
Yeah.
But if a cop goes to a wireless company and subpoenas it, they can get everything from your phone. And they do, any kind of major investigation. All of your Google searches, all of your text messages, everything, your location data, it's all fair game. Well, somebody was looking into the senators. Now, they claim that there's a law that's supposed to say you have to get in contact with the senators and let them know that law enforcement is doing that to them. And that didn't happen. But since he has made this stink, they've been getting notifications, which means that a lot of them are under investigation, which is interesting, right?
But also, could we all have that?
No.
Or, maybe just not be surveilled all the time, constantly?
We definitely cannot have that. And Tim Walz had the Telegram, what was the name of that thing? It was like the
3 emojis about
the Clover Valley Telegram, where they could bypass the restrictions on it but still use it in the government. Well, it turns out he wasn't alone, and this is not a new thing because now we have records going back to 2024.
Exclusive. Hacker who breached communications app used by Trump aides stole data from across the U.S. government.
So this was much more widely spread than anybody thought, and it's been going on for a while. And it was a variety of agencies which had this. I don't remember we got our Reuters paywall here.
Somebody not enjoying their holiday weekend because of this.
Yeah, probably some
scrambling.
Those burgers ain't going to taste as good when you don't know what's coming on Tuesday. They'll be fine, though. Come on. They're protected. And one of the things that we like to cover here are mergers and acquisitions and the promises that are made during said mergers and acquisitions, which are never, ever enforced. I mean, how many stores have we done?
Blizzard was one of the worst, right? When Microsoft wanted Blizzard.
That's coming back. I forgot to add that story. They've dropped the lawsuit against it. The DOJ has. Or whoever was, is it FCC? Whoever was against that. For the
low price of $1 million.
Well, Verizon had a merger. Actually, they've done this twice. I think one was in 2008 and one was in 2017. And both times they made promises about unlocking phones.
Verizon tries to get out of merger condition requiring it to unlock phones. So this is if you're swapping providers.
Right now.
Was it 6 or not 6 months even? I think it was 2 months.
60 days. No, 60 days is the baseline one that the previous FCC put in place. I think that's in effect. But Verizon has a worse one because they agreed to it because they wanted that merger. And in 2008, they wanted something else. So they're like, yeah, we'll do this. Now their argument is it's not fair because nobody else has to do it.
Well, dude, you signed the contract. Idea. Yeah. Whose fault is that? Read the fine print.
And it's, Verizon and enforcing contracts.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so ruthless about it.
But we don't know anybody who's good at enforcing contracts as Verizon.
So they're trying to get rid of that, and it looks like maybe the 60-day thing might go away because of the new FCC, because Carr is in charge of the FCC, and they might actually get their way here, which would be... Remember, the merger and acquisition, this was supposed to offset the damage to the consumer. that they knew was coming with that acquisition.
Yeah, they're saying, oh, but think of criminals. This is bad because criminals.
And this one's kind of insane. I suppose we should not give AI any sorts of rights.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve rights.
But at the same time, it's ridiculous what these people are claiming here.
Florida judge rules AI chatbots not protected by First Amendment.
Now, you might remember this case. This was a guy who had a Daenerys Targaryen chatbot who he fell in love with. And
who wouldn't? The Khaleesi, you know.
Well, she is amazing. But he told her he was thinking about coming home. He didn't say anything more than that. And the Khaleesi told him, yes, you should. I can't wait to see you, baby. And he deleted his Minecraft server.
Oh.
Yeah. So they are saying that there are damages here, but I don't think the chatbot could have interpreted that correctly. And even then,
a person wouldn't necessarily interpret that correctly, even if you were trying to ascribe personhood to it.
And like, if you're so fragile that an AI can talk you into that, like, how can we protect you? Does somebody have to run in front of you and like move all the dangerous things out of the way? Remember Hong Kong Phooey? You're too young for that.
No, I don't know that.
We had the cat that would always fix his mistakes, and he never knew it. He thought he was a superhero. Like, that's what these people want.
That's how I feel at our day job sometimes.
Yeah.
Just, moving things out of the way before anyone knows there's even a problem.
Or dragging them out of the pits.
Yeah.
More often.
They want to live in the pit.
And here's another instance of, we knew we shouldn't do that. There were specific laws against it. We did it anyway. Nothing's going to happen.
New Orleans used AI surveillance without public knowledge or full oversight. Yay.
So these were public cameras, facial recognition, tracking everything. And yeah, they used them to actually catch criminals a number of times. And they weren't supposed to. There's laws against it. They did it anyway.
How are you supposed to enjoy Mardi Gras knowing you're being surveilled?
Especially Mardi Gras, right?
Yeah.
Imagine how many young ladies pulled their tops off.
It'll just be one moment, and then you're in a database forever.
And I guarantee you some of the guys looking through the database have like a special little collection somewhere. We're going to find out about that eventually. Moving over to Europe, nuclear power has always been a big sticking point with some countries, particularly Germany. They are not about it for whatever reason. France loves it. Germany hates it, and they've always been clashing about it. But it seems that AI has pushed the poor Germans over the edge.
Berlin, Paris, overcome rift over nuclear energy, French official says.
So thanks to the data center needs, Germany has now agreed for the first time that nuclear is green energy, which changes all sorts of laws about, subsidies and where you can put it and stuff like that.
What if there's someone who keeps track of those laws and they saw that, that's changing and they're like, I'm going to have to update so much paperwork.
I think more than likely there's people watching, traders looking at that, trying to make some money.
It could be both.
I mean, you could just go in and just insert,
Control F.
Find and replace.
Yeah.
And France still has this fella from Telegram under lock and key. I think he's out, actually, like house arrest or something, right? But he's not allowed to leave because the trial is still ongoing. And he is a powerful businessman, but they're saying, we don't care.
France barred Telegram founder Pavel Durov from traveling to U.S.
He was trying to get some financing for Telegram, and they were like, no, you're not going. Stay at home and have some wine.
If he's at house arrest, I mean.
And here's an interesting one. Now, this is always colored by the fact that these are young UK people who are willing to answer a survey, which I could always argue.
Yeah, anytime someone's willing to answer a survey, you have to be like,
They don't represent me. This is the dum-dums who are answering. But they have some interesting opinions.
Almost half of young people would prefer a world without internet, UK study finds. Half of 16 to 21-year-olds support a digital curfew.
I think day 3 without Spotify and YouTube and, TikTok, they would change their tune.
I think I'd be okay.
Without the internet?
Yeah. I raw dogged trail. I forgot my headphones. Didn't have any music. I was fine.
Well, that's good for a little detox, but then what
I mean, you do, like, for my job, I have to have internet for my job. I can't.
And for
I can't do my job.
A lot of other things. You want to go back to having phone conversations?
I already do with my mom every week.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
You prefer in person, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I would prefer in person.
But I don't know. I mean, they've got some points. I think for a young person in particular, we kind of missed that wave. I mean, we could be social media. You and I are not as much on it as some people our age, but young people are definitely, it's got to feel a little bit like a prison, right?
It probably feels more like real life than actual real life.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
Imagine when artificial intelligence starts to feel like that.
I think we're headed that direction, right?
Oh my God, headed to it. We're
yeah.
plummeting into that pit.
We have stories about that coming on Friday.
And over in Spain, like a lot of places in Europe, they have a bit of a housing problem. And when you can't find a house because you're priced out of the market completely, it might bother you a little bit to see all the Airbnb listings because those are houses.
I could live there,
So-
if I could afford them.
So they have some special rules about it, and they've some people might have been skirting those rules.
Spain blocks more than 65,000 Airbnb holiday rental listings. Apparently you have to have some sort of like code or something saying, I'm not a corporation or whatever, and a lot of them didn't have it.
That happened to me because I was signing up my parents for utilities,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "Oh, this is your name? You already have a house. You're going to be paying commercial taxes on this." I was like, "What?
Oh.
They're old. You're going to
I'm
make me
taking
drag them
care.
in here?"
I would think it would be like if you have more than like, I don't know, 5 houses or something.
Well,
I don't know.
How
Like
many
something
houses
where
you need? You need
Yeah.
one house. Yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm not against the rule necessarily.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm just saying, like, it kind of sucks that you got sucked in the dragnet there because you're not a landlord. You're taking care of your parents.
But yeah, you have to designate your house a certain way if you're going to rent it. And a lot of these people seem to be dodging those taxes. They got busted. And that canceled well, they don't have Memorial Day, do they?
No, I don't think so. If you're Spanish, let us know.
No, for sure. That's ours. So I guess they don't have a special holiday. But Spain is very popular in Europe as a place to go.
Vacation,
to like
yeah.
the beaches and such. And the India-Pakistan conflict is kind of simmering at the moment. I don't think there's been any more escalation, but what we're figuring out is where all these weapons came from. And a lot of them came from China because China and Pakistan are kind of BFFs at the moment, and India's not liking it.
China moved satellites to help Pakistan shoot down Indian jets.
You know what I learned about? Do you know about the BLA, the Balochistan Liberation Army? That's wild. There's a rebel group in Pakistan. They took their land and let China come in and start developing on it, infrastructure. And there's a guerrilla group who keeps attacking them. Yeah. I didn't know anything about that. Interesting story.
I've never heard that before.
And they say that in war, the truth is the first casualty. And that has certainly played out over in India.
Modi's government cracks down on dissent over Pakistan conflict.
So this fella, I think it's this fella, he's some sort of name in India. And he was actually very patriotic about the war effort. But then he said at the same time, it's like, oh, but, don't let them trick you into thinking that this is like, don't be blindly nationalistic here. The Indian government is terrible. They immediately took that down. And he might be in a little bit of trouble from that.
Wow, that's such a mild form of it's not even really dissent. Yeah. It's just like a disagreement with how you handled something.
Yeah, I think they might be using some dissent laws or, like treason type stuff to come after him. So disappointing.
Treason for mildly disagreeing with you. Ugh.
Not being rabid for war. That's a crime now. But that's not, a lot of countries are like that. We know India is quick to turn off the internet, though. They love turning off the internet. I don't know if they've done it this year. They're probably itching.
Somebody's got the switch and come on, let me throw it.
And Telegram is not popular with governments, let me tell you.
Yeah.
They don't like it because it's got the encryption, and anytime they can, they will go against it.
Vietnam orders messaging app Telegram to be blocked, government document shows.
They make the usual arguments: fraud, crime, trafficking, that type of stuff, which it probably is going on, admittedly. I think I would, if I were going to be up to that, I would be looking for an end-to-end encrypted service of some kind. Right?
A messaging app that can meet my crime needs.
Although I wouldn't trust the ones that are specifically tailored to crime, because those have always been honeypots.
Yeah.
Every single time. And Russia is, of course, in a war, and they're worried about their security, and they are taking some extreme measures.
Russia to enforce location tracking app on all foreigners in Moscow.
So if you're going to visit, you are going to have to download this app, keep it on your phone. It's going to track everything you do. You're going to have to take a selfie so they have your picture on file. And I think you have to do a couple of other things.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
I'll just not
Fingerprints, face photograph, and geolocation monitoring, and residence location.
I think I'll just not go. Not to say that we're not being surveilled in the same way here. I just don't, why be surveilled more than once?
You're paying for that same surveillance.
Yeah. Handsomely to get a flight to Russia.
You know what? I didn't notice that in the article. I wonder if they charge you for the service. I bet they do in Russia. Somebody's got to pay for that data, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen this before where countries doing business with American tech companies are sometimes a little surprised and unaware of just how much spying there is. They're like, wait a minute, there's this much spying?
We didn't consent to this.
We didn't know that. And in fact, this one was turned on after the fact.
NSW Education Department caught unaware after Microsoft Teams began collecting students' biometric data, including their sweet little faces.
So they have laws against that kind of thing in a lot of places, and especially for the kids. So when your kid was on the Teams call, that voice and that face was being fed to build training data.
I feel much more vindicated not never using my camera on
Team no
Teams.
camera.
Yeah.
Camera is a bad idea.
I do notice too a lot of times, like, I'll get on a call with someone who has their camera on and they notice that mine's off, they turn theirs off.
Sheep.
Yeah. Coward.
You should be like, why'd you turn your camera off?
Commit.
And this is the age-old conspiracy theory. Conspiracy. That it's only been proven true 1 billion times. But this time, there's money involved, so we know that it's true.
Is your tech listening? Yes. Apple settles claim for Siri eavesdropping.
So yeah, all those anecdotes that you've lived through where you talked about something and all of a sudden got ads for it, yeah, that's real. They didn't admit guilt, though. Importantly, they were not forced to admit guilt, only to pay $94 million, or $95 million. That's nothing.
Worth it for all the data they got and the ads they sold.
You know what? He's going to spend that on the next Trump dinner. Easily. You think Trump sets the menu at those dinners?
Is it McDonald's?
What do you think he likes?
I wonder if they serve him something different than the guests.
That would be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Like everyone else is having like normal fancy White House food and then, stuff from their garden or whatever. And then like Trump has McDonald's set in front of him.
But Trump was born rich, so I think he's probably pretty comfortable with that kind of stuff, right?
I don't know. Yeah,
I think he's probably had some foie gras in his lifetime.
Yeah, I'm so trashy. I'm just like, what is that? Like, I don't even know what that is. How do I eat that? Where do I put my fork?
It's duck liver. It's duck liver for a duck that's been choked with fat its entire life, so that it gets fatty liver disease.
Does it taste better?
I've never had it. I don't know.
I don't really like liver. I think I've only had liver like once. I've certainly not had fatty duck liver.
You've never lived then. And Signal, another app that uses end-to-end encryption, is finding that the host operating system that it's on might be a little combative to its desire for secrecy.
Signal declares war on Microsoft recall with screenshot blocking on Windows 11.
So I guess the OS gives you this ability to disable screenshots. That's definitely a thing on mobile that a lot of apps try to do.
Yeah.
So Signal has used that and said, no, you cannot use recall to capture Signal, because that would defeat the whole point of Signal.
It's coming. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Well, yeah, I think you have to have the Copilot stuff to have that work, right?
But when are they going to start enabling that against my will?
Well, your PC has to have all that stuff turned on, so maybe if you buy a laptop. I think you might be able to avoid it for now. I'm not saying they won't change that.
Yeah, we might have a story next week about how they've changed it, but
And Coinbase had a breach, and they got information. Now, they didn't get anybody's coins, or they didn't get their login details or anything, but they did get your address and how much money you have with Coinbase, which has raised a different kind of fear in some of the high net worth owners.
Coinbase data breach will lead to people dying, TechCrunch founder says.
How will they die? Kidnappings.
You have a lot of money and you live in a fancy neighborhood, but you don't have a gate.
And then we know where you are, and we know a lot of info about you, and we can pretend to be you or people close to you or whatever, and we can find you. And when we do, you're going to make those transfers. It's happened before. And Krebs, Brian Krebs is a dude who's big into security. He's got this blog, and a lot of people who are into nefarious stuff, not fans of his. He tends to point out things, and sometimes he hampers them in other ways, destroying their botnets and such. And so they decided to get a little revenge on him.
KrebsOnSecurity hit with near record 6.3. Is that
terabits?
Terabits. DDoS.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I almost read it as tablespoons, and I was like, that's not right.
That would be a lot of tablespoons.
Tablespoons, yeah, just obscene.
So there's the chart. It was pretty ruthless. And he is assuming that this is actually a test. That they're actually just testing out this new botnet, which is massively larger than a lot of things we've seen before. And he attributes it to this fella Fork.
Not forking around?
Forky?
Oh, I've seen this picture before. Isn't this from Toy Story?
Well,
isn't this a character?
Probably,
yeah.
But this guy, Forky is his username. And he is a Brazilian, presumably, and they believe that he is behind all this.
The picture with the severity of the crime kind of makes it funny.
It won't be funny when they're turning that on the online services that we need. And you got your kid, you got to educate them. The public education is just trash, right? So you're trying to sign them up for some extra stuff or whatever. And guess what? They don't protect the data any better than the public schools.
19-year-old accused of largest child data breach in U.S. agrees to plead guilty to federal charges.
This wasn't even good hacking. This dude got a data dump somewhere, searched the names, figured out one of the high-level people at Power School was in the breach, tried the login. What do you know? They used the same password.
Ugh.
And he was able to exfiltrate a whole lot of stuff. But when that comes to child identity and child identity theft, you get a lot more charges. So he's probably going to go away. The plea deal was, I think, not more than 9 years, which is still a long time. But he's 19, probably 20 now, so he could still have a life afterwards.
Crazy. How do you even explain that to other people in prison? What are you in for? I was just using someone else's password to see if I could get in, and I could.
You know what their response to that is? Give me all of your commissary. Because we know you're not going to fight us. So you are going to be.
This kid's a nerd.
Yeah. And this is an old one that we have talked about many, many times. But boy, did Wired do a in-depth write-up about this. I mean, they got if you're looking for a long read on a whodunit.
A true crime podcast, if you will.
But unfortunately, it's not the crime that was the problem. It was the method of solving it.
3 teens almost got away with murder. Then police found their Google searches. I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for your dang Google searches.
And so they... not just the Google searches, it was this is the arson case where they did the geolocation. So these kids set fire to a house, and the cops got all of the mobiles within, 100, I don't know, was it 100 yards or might have been even more than that. And then they started going through people's Google searches if those devices showed up there, which is insane, right? Because all you had to do was drive past this house at a certain time.
Yeah, just generally be in the area.
And sure enough, they found that these kids had Googled this address multiple times, and they were tracking this guy. Apparently, this kid got robbed and then tracked his phone back to this house. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't read the whole thing because, my God, it's long. But I never got to the point to figure out why that phone was there. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, if someone steals your phone, you shouldn't burn their house down. There's other ways to go about that.
Yeah, wouldn't you go to the cops and be like, hey, my phone was stolen and I can see that it's here. Can you guys go check on it? Or
But the kid was a criminal himself. He was dealing some drugs and doing all kinds of stuff.
And he was like, you know, what's a reasonable response to this insult? Arson.
Actually, part of the text messages between him and his friends that they found was like, I can't really be mad about this because you and I have done this to other people many times, but I'm going to get my revenge. And his bro that was with him was just along for the ride. Yeah, and he's going to get the same time. And finally, Microsoft, you know, we didn't talk about it last week, but there was, Microsoft was doing a presentation and they got interrupted by the activists. Happens a lot. And these people were interested in, you know, Palestinian causes and issues and made some statements about that. And Microsoft, of course, quickly observed their internal policies on dealing in war and made some changes. Of course, that's not true. I'm making that up. They did something else.
Microsoft blocks emails that contain the word Palestine after employee protests.
They tested it. Yes, it's true. Now, if you used P4-Lestine, they didn't catch for that.
Wow.
So, not a very good filter.
Surely they have customers there. Maybe not a lot, but like...
There's no power.
But like, you don't have any division that deals with that? Like, surely normal stuff would get caught up in that, even if you're not discussing.
I don't think they care.
Wow.
No, I don't think there's any big companies doing business there, right?
I don't know.
Those are very poor people. They have very little resources.
It doesn't stop the Zuck from getting his greedy little fingers everywhere. I don't know if he's there, but like, you know, he goes into those little African nations and is like, yeah, we'll give you internet. Please give us all your data. Same thing with OpenAI and their retina scans.
What's his last name?
Did I say Zuckerberg? What did I say? Mark Zuckerberg?
What language is that? I don't think he's in that country.
I've missed what's happened. I'm tired.
Tell her in the comments.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm tired. I have to go. Bye.